Tucker Carlson's show on Fox News is a major catalyst of disinformation, and his ratings are really good. So what is he doing now? He's going further down the conspiracy rabbit hole to the point that you can't even understand what he's saying. This is a really common characteristic among charlatans, among pseudoscience purveyors and others. At a certain point, the things they say no longer make sense to anyone, even their followers. But that's okay because their followers assume it must make sense to someone, so I'm going to just go with it. If you look back at Jim Jones from the People's Temple, this is the guy who got his followers to drink cyanide-laced Kool-Aid and kill themselves. His so-called teachings over time would make less and less sense to his followers. And some of them would be sort of conflicted, but the fact that it made no sense became a source of his power. He must really be telling us some high-level stuff here. I had the good sense to start following him. I'm not understanding what he's saying, but it must really be important stuff. Alex Jones, his conspiracy theories became and have become increasingly unintelligible. So anyway, here's basically an Alex Jones type conspiracy theory from Tucker Carlson related to the White House looking set that the Biden administration used for Joe Biden's third vaccine dose. Look at all of the things that Tucker Carlson infers from the fact that the White House has like a set that looks like one room from the White House. Take a look at this.
And keep them informed of international incidents. Instead, they are, in some cases, freelancing to crush anyone who opposes their power. Mike Flynn, for example, he was briefly the national security advisor in the Trump administration. What we learned from the destruction of Mike Flynn, really, was that, sure, you can elect Donald Trump president, but does he really run the executive branch of government? No.
Sorry, and I'm realizing I started this too late. We're getting to Mike Flynn in a moment, but let's pick it up at the beginning.
Take a look at the latest example. These are pictures of a fake White House set that the Biden administration has, for some reason, constructed across the street from the actual White House. It's in an auditorium at the Eisenhower Executive Office Building. Why go to the trouble? They already have a White House. Well, Stephen Miller spent the last 4 years in the White House as an advisor to Trump, and here's his explanation for it, because he would know. Quote, the reason Biden uses this bizarre virtual set for televised meetings and not an actual room like the East Room, the Cabinet, the Oval, the Roosevelt Sit Room, etc., there are a lot of rooms. The reason he does this is because it allows him to read a script directly from a face-on monitor and without teleprompter glass that can be seen on camera.
So this is actually quite silly. Because if that was the concern, you could just do that by setting up a different camera angle in any of the rooms Tucker mentioned. Like even at its core, it doesn't even pass the sniff test.
Oh. Now, we can't verify that that's true, but it certainly sounds right.
Well, maybe.
Joe Biden can't speak from the Oval Office because he's not sure what to say, so he has to read it all here. So that raises a much deeper question. The question is not, is Joe Biden mentally impaired? Obviously he is, and again, we're not going to gloat over it. But a much more important question for the rest of us is, if he's not running the government, then who is? That's a real question. Clearly, the FBI, the DOJ, and the military are already acting independently of the elected president of the United States. As you just saw, they don't even keep him informed of international incidents. Instead, they are, in some cases, freelancing to crush anyone who opposes their power.
Okay, so it's starting to get very, very conspiratorial. And then just to show you like how far this all goes, here's one more example. Here's Tucker's preview of an interview with Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn. And he's talking about deep state conspiracy theories.
I sat down with a long interview with Mike Flynn. It's coming out Monday. And he told us what is really obvious to everyone who watches. An unelected group within Washington effectively runs the country without reference to voters. Here's his assessment.
We have two separate governments. We have the one that actually gets elected and goes into office, and then you have a government inside of Washington, D.C. that operates under no rules, no authorities other than their own or who's ever in charge of their
Sounds like that government was still controlled by Barack Obama.
Yeah, and I would say that that to a degree is what we're operating with today.
By the way, Mike Flynn is not some internet celebrity or conservative activist. He was a three-star general.
Who became a complete and total lunatic once he started working for Trump, or before and we just didn't notice.
intelligence agency. He was the number 2 guy for all American intelligence. He spent his entire life working in the federal government and succeeding at that. So he knows what he's talking about. He is a reliable guide to how the government actually works. Our whole conversation with Mike Flynn, by the way,
he could not be a less reliable guide as to how the government works. Mike Flynn seems to have had something happen that has made him completely delusional about even the basic facts of how the world works. So this is they're basically talking about like an Obama-run deep state of some kind. And this has many, many iterations. This is a family of conspiracies, much studied, significant amount of literature on it. Sometimes it's called deep state. It's a shadow government of some kind. Sometimes you call it the deep state. Sometimes it's the Freemasons. Sometimes it's the Jews. Sometimes it's the Vatican. Could be the Trilateral Commission, the Illuminati, the Bilderbergs. There's a bunch of versions of it. And this seems to be what Tucker Carlson's audience now wants. So when we talk about OAN and Newsmax are well beyond Fox News in terms of what they're willing to put on air. Yeah, it's true in a way. And yet, look at what's happening on Tucker's show lately. And then in addition, when we say, well, you've got MSNBC, which is left, and Fox News, which is right, sure, they're both corporate media networks with different editorial bents, but there is nothing on MSNBC that is equivalent to this. So this seems to be what Tucker's audience wants, and Fox News seems to be gleefully promoting it and signal boosting it and accepting it. And again, I think it's because of the financial incentives. Even though there have been advertiser troubles with Tucker and his show, the ratings are still there. And overall, this is a good show for Fox News' business model. We're going to have more of this on our Instagram, which you can find at David Pakman Show. One of our sponsors is Shaker and Spoon, the monthly cocktail subscription box that delivers the ingredients and recipes for amazing craft cocktails right to your door. I use Shaker and Spoon to make cocktails at home. Always fun. The last one I made was Citrus Paradisi. Nice combination of vodka, tonic, lime, green tea, and rose. Nothing better than rose. You open the box, everything you need is right there. The recipe card, all the ingredients except for the alcohol. It's great because they always have ingredients that are really high quality and hard to find. The instructions are easy, so my cocktails always turn out great, even though I don't know anything about mixing drinks. But you learn a lot of new things about cocktails using Shaker and Spoon, which I love about it. Opening up your Shaker and Spoon box is a great way to spend a night in, and you'll get $20 off when you use promo code PACMAN at checkout. Go to shakerandspoon.com/Pacman. The link is down below.